Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan.
I'm a painter, performer, writer, Pilates teacher, animal lover, and biologist.
No, I'm a painter, performer, writer, Pilates teacher, animal lover, and okay, I'm not a biologist, but we're long lost
friends.
Today, we are so excited. We are talking to environmental scientist, educator, author, and artist, Dr. Marcus Eriksen. He's also a paleontologist who goes digging for dinosaurs. And how sci-fi is that? Marcus founded Gyres Institute, which researches ocean plastic pollution in oceans. And he's also a writer and artist. But today we're going to talk about Gyres. We want to learn about new developments in science that might help your world building and perhaps to include some facts and environmental solutions in your writing.
But first, we'd love to see your pets or pet if you have only one.
My
So
pets,
welcome.
I'm in my barn right now. We have 10 cats. Just adopted 3 cats. And you can see them behind me. There's one.
Hi.
Hi. There's another. Hey, little guy. Hi.
Oh, pretty cute.
Oh, look how cute.
And then my
Did they
other
just
pet.
wander in?
I've had this one about almost 40 years. It's an alligator. I collected. I was 15 years old.
Oh, very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up
15?
in Indiana, where I used to go walk out to the swamp and catch snakes and turtles, occasionally alligator. And that's one that I caught stuffed. There's a good conservation ethic lesson about animals. But those are my pets. And I got a dog inside the house that doesn't know what to think about the dinosaur bones I keep on bringing back home.
That's very cool. So tell us about Gyres, ocean plastics, and maybe, if possible, like some hope.
Sure. I'm more optimistic today than I was when we began the organization. Oh, it's almost 13 years now. So the Gyres Institute is named after the 5 oceanic gyres. Those are areas in the oceans where the currents are spinning and trash collects in the middle. For example, the North Atlantic, you can find trash from California to Japan. The entire ocean is spinning in a clockwise fashion. And the gyre exists really between this concentration zone between Hawaii and here. In fact, I'll show you one of our displays. You can see here's the concentration zone right there off the coast of California. And here's one of the samples, this exhibit I built, showing folks what that trash looks like.
Oh, wow.
There are these accumulation zones, and we have traveled through all 5, about 20 expeditions around the world, through each of the 5 subtropical gyres in North Atlantic, North Pacific, South Atlantic, South Pacific, Indian Ocean. We've also been across the Great Lakes, the Antarctica and the Arctic, just recently the Galapagos and Indonesia. So really, really understanding, doing the science, publishing research papers on the abundance and distribution of trash in the world's oceans. And it's interesting, things have really expanded out of the oceans into deserts. And I wanted to show you one artifact we pulled. I just published this research paper on plastics inside the side of the stomachs of camels. And this is one mass, you can see. I pulled this thing out of a dead camel stomach in Dubai. I was actually there looking at plastics in the Gulf of Arabia. And I met one biologist who said, "You want to see plastics? Come with me." Went deep in the desert. We found 5 skeletons. In each one, I found a mass of plastic in the stomach. Now, I know these things, they sound kind of hopeless, that there's animals eating our trash and oceans are full of plastics. I am much more optimistic now than I was when I became aware of this issue 20 years ago. There is so much innovation and entrepreneurs and over 2,000 NGOs, nonprofit organizations, working together. There's so much science being done that right now, actually, I'm consulting with the UN on a proposed international global treaty on plastic pollution. So to answer your question, is there a hope? tremendous hope today.
Wow. So,
Great.
what would you maybe recommend for people trying to eliminate some of the plastics from their lives? Do you have any sort of suggestions?
Well, you know, that is a question I often get, like, what can we do? What can I do? And there are three entities really that take responsibility. It's the individual, the consumer, it's your government, your municipality, and your country, federal and local and state level politics and policy. And then there's the private sector. It's the corporations who are making all this stuff in the first place. And each one has its own suite of solutions. But when I ask about what can you do, I just say two words: get organized. And when you find like-minded people in your community and you say, okay, let's do something. Let's put more trash bins around the schools that are polluting the place, or let's ban plastic bags or straws in our community. Those kinds of things, they pick up a lot of steam, and you get more and more people, and you get things done. You get legislation passed. You get corporations to move. And so that's why I'll answer the question, is just to get organized.
Cool. I have a question that's the plastic in the camels. So did that kill the camel eventually? Like the camel ate too much plastic, and as I've seen that with seabirds, but camels, that's a new one.
Yeah, it is a sad story, because I work with like I said, this biologist and veterinarian named Uli Werner. Been living there for 25 years. It's interesting. He went there to study camels, and Sheikh Mohammed of Dubai said, I want the best camel hospital on the planet. Gave him $50 million to build this amazing hospital. And as he began bringing in camels to study them, he said at least a quarter of the camels come in with trash in their guts. And he said, well, when they get to him, they're suffering pretty bad. They've got ulcers. They've had wounds in their gut, just mechanical wounds from plastics and other objects, those ulcers. It makes them feel satiated when they're not. And they become malnourished and dehydrated. And also creates blockages. I mean, you can imagine, I've got one of these little camel, I call them polybezoars. A bezoar is a mass of material in a ruminant's stomach, and they've been around for millions of years. A lot of animals have those. But with plastics, they become these massive accumulations of trash. I've got one that's about 100 pounds. It's a huge mass. Cut it in half, and through, it's only plastic bags. So imagine the blockage that causes. It's like, imagine if you stuffed 20 or 30 plastic bags down your throat and they stayed in your gut. They didn't go away. Imagine the suffering. You just get skinny. You'd be tired, malnourished. You would have stomach aches. And then you would be on your last leg going to a hospital like these camels are. So yes, there's tremendous suffering. And that, you know, that empathy, I think, it adds credence to the sort of policies we want. The single-use throwaway stuff, it's just trashing wildlife, it's trashing our environment for a very simple few minutes of convenience to carry your groceries to your car. What a waste of material, and what a waste of wildlife and our oceans.
So Marcus, with the camel situation particularly, where are those camels? Are they in the, are they in the deserts? Are they in the cities? Where are they picking up the plastic? Where are they finding it? Everywhere?
They're in the desert. They're just wild roaming camels. There are camels everywhere. They're beautiful animals. And you can imagine in the desert, there's not much to stop a plastic bag from blowing across the desert, blowing for hundreds of miles. So for example, I went to Kuwait as well on this trip. We went to Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and Dubai, UAE. And in Kuwait, there was one fence. We drove along this fence for a few miles. There were millions of plastic bags stuck on this fence. The fence was mostly, it was like 45 degrees, pushed over by the wind. Just bags blowing everywhere. And there have been occurrences of trash hundreds of miles in the desert away from cities. So these camels, they're picking it up out in the middle of nowhere. And think of the camels, but all they've known in the desert, if it's not sand, it's food. They're picking these bags off of the few acacia trees they see, off of fences, off the ground, thinking they're food. There might be some food residue, some salt or something that they're consuming, but it's devastating.
Wow, that's really sad. Yeah. Not microplastics in that case, just bags, actually.
Yeah, it was just bags and ropes. I found some clothing but it was mostly plastic bags and ropes inside their guts. We did
Once they
find
have that, is there a way, like you said, the vet, can they be, I don't know, can they take the plastic out and the camel be okay? Or is that just like, that's just
No.
their dead
when they get to him, they usually die. And he tries to do some extractions, but that's a pretty invasive operation. You split the stomach open. He said, no, that as well. Once they get to him, and it's the necropsies, he finds out, oh, there's the culprit. There's a big wad of plastic trash in their guts. And it's cows as well. There's an organization actually in southern India, in Kerala, in that province. It's called the Sacred Plastic Cow. And they're just documenting the millions of cows across the entire country that are eating trash in landfills and dumps everywhere on the side of roads. And it's interesting spin on words, the sacred plastic cow. Remember, I was there in India and I asked someone, I said, why do we allow camels to forage in dumps? And it was interesting. The man told me, he said, well, the cow is a god, and who is he to tell God whether to eat or not eat a plastic bag? I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
Religion and conservation.
Well, it's always a problem, isn't it? Religion and conservation.
They don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think I remember you starting a dinosaur hospital that got, or not hospital, dinosaur hospital, yeah, dinosaur museum, but that got stopped by some religious, the world's only 6,000 years old thing or something. Do you remember that?
It was organization, a group called the Foundation for the Advancement of Creationist Truth. Yeah, the abbreviation is FACT. Got us kicked out of one ranch in Wyoming. That's a whole story another time. But yeah, that's an interesting mixture of physics and science. They don't go well. They
yeah, well, we need to get a creature that can actually eat plastics. Aren't there some bacterias, aren't there?
Well, I those reports every few months. I get someone sending me a research paper of some student made some GMO bacteria that eats plastics. My first response is, well, do you want that bacteria unleashed in the environment? It's going to eat boats. It's going to eat fishing docks. It's going to eat all these NOAA buoys that are collecting data on weather. It's going to eat everything, your shoes, off your shirt. We don't want to release some mutant bacteria. There's actually a book. I found this sci-fi book written in 1972 called The Plastic Eaters 59. It's a strange book, but it was all about plastic eating microbes eating up the planet.
Wow.
Almost 50. So yeah, the idea of plastic eating microbes around for a long time, but I don't advocate releasing something like that. There are unintended consequences we can't fathom.
Always. Always. Okay. Do you have any like?
Hey, can I show you?
Yes.
So just to share a story, because I love storytelling. When I first got involved in this issue, I had made a promise to myself when I was in the first Gulf War back in 1991. Remember the burning oil wells in the desert of Kuwait? I went back, a few years ago. The plastics, they're a whole different mission. When I was there, I remember sitting in a fox on all the burning wells saying, if I survive this war, this is 30 years ago, I'm going to build a raft and raft the Mississippi River. I grew up within a few blocks of the river. I used to swim in the river, catch snakes, turtles, and see in the river. I love the river. And 13 years after the Gulf War, back in 2003, I built my raft. And I had someone drop me off in Lake Itasca, Minnesota. And I spent 5 glorious months camping on sandbars in the banks of the Mississippi River. And I remember seeing Aurora Borealis in Tennessee. I had deer jump over my raft. I saw so many fish. I met just the most amazing people. And my raft was made out of plastic bottles.
Oh, wow.
My raft, it's called the Bottle Rocket. There's the And I spent a lot of time sitting right here on this seat, my way. It's a functional paddle wheel made out of 2 bicycles.
Wow.
And it's got 232 2-liter bottles all stacked up in these little bins that I made to keep it afloat. But you know, it was this trip that it was a bit ironic I chose plastic bottles for flotation. That led me to really pay attention to the trash in the river. I saw so much plastic. I could always look left or right and see a plastic bottle, a Ziploc bag, a straw, a styrofoam cup, all this junk leaving our country. I mean, the North American continent, the greatest watershed on the continent, was carrying our trash out to sea. And that's what prompted me to track down Captain Charles Moore, the guy that discovered the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, lives here in Long Beach, California. I met him. I brought my raft to his doorstep, parked in right by his front yard. He got a kick out of that. 3 weeks later, I had a job running his science education department, then began my own work. And that led us around the world.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow.
Mason, where are you taking us, Elizabeth? You want to
I
walk?
am just actually now taking you to try and get a plug because my phone is low.
Oh, I work.
Sorry about that. I got it. That's my fault because yeah, I'm not at home. So
should we talk about our favorite things we found this week or read this week or learned this week?
I think we should. So well, I usually start because I do. So I'm going.
Awesome.
Well, my favorite thing is I am visiting La Jolla, California. I'm also trying to plug in the phone. So excuse me. There we go. I'm visiting La Jolla this week because it's the season for leopard sharks. There are actually thousands in the shallow waters here. It was kind of churny, so I've only seen like maybe 6 at a time, but they're big. They're like, most of them are as big as I am, about to 3 feet to a little bit bigger than I am, which is a little over 5 feet. But they didn't know for a long time why they were here. And now they found they're all mostly pregnant females, and the warm, shallow waters help their embryos develop faster. So they're here. Don't you wish people could do that? Like you got pregnant and you're like, I don't want to wait 9 months. I'm just going to shallow, warm waters and I'll deliver in a couple of weeks or something. Actually, it takes them 10 to 12 months. So it's not fast. And then can I add one more thing? There's another kind of shark. This is what I really like. They're not here. Tiger sand sharks, but they eat their siblings in utero so that they have a whole bunch, and they can go, the sharks have different, more than one uterus, and the little embryo sharks can go from uterus to uterus eating their siblings, and only one comes out. I don't know if I don't know. I like it. I like that fact. What can I say? I'm sick.
That's kind of like an alien thing, like this thing inside eating its way out. Yeah, there's a story idea for someone. I'm going to just go off of that just to say that I've been hooking into livescience.com because they have great weird things. And one of the things, just following on you, is that there was in Italy, they had a virgin shark birth. And I guess it happens, you guys can correct me, you scientists can correct me, parthenogenesis.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 2 female sharks in a tank together, and one of them just had a baby girl.
Good.
Because they can't have baby boys because they don't have the right chromosomes. But I thought that was.
If they were born in captivity, that would seem strange. But I wonder if they can actually store the male genome, male sperm from maybe months or years earlier.
They said
hang on already.
Yeah, they said, I mean, maybe they can. They said in this case, it wasn't that. And they said that when they do have these births, because I've seen them in other sharks, they only have females because they're only having female chromosomes. So, but I guess it just happens sometimes. They think it happens in the wild too, but they don't have a way to watch that.
That's amazing. Makes you think of the other asexual reproducing organism that I remember is the hydra, little tiny organism that it actually buds off of its stalk a new being. Imagine if we could do that. if you could bud a new you coming off the side of your head or something.
No, and I think how with hydras they found, I think it's a hydra where they can actually sort of metamorphose backwards if they get injured. Like they go through these different stages, and if they get to one stage and they're injured, they can reverse their development and start over.
Wow.
Like, so you could
Oops. Oh no. We
have
lost.
to speak. Done speaking. I don't know my.
Oh. That was pretty cool. Well, while are you back? While we're waiting for Elizabeth, Marcus, you can share with us your cool or wonderful thing you learned this week.
Well, on this theme of sci-fi, observations, sharks that asexually reproduce and things like that. So I was following a tarantula hawk around my farm yesterday, and I saw it had caught a large wolf spider, and it was dragging. What tarantula hawks do, it's a large wasp that will find a spider, often a small tarantula or a large wolf spider. They'll sting it to paralyze it. Then they'll drag it, they'll dig a hole, and they'll bury that spider underground, lay one egg on it, and then it just incubates. And once the egg hatches, then it eats the spider alive until it itself grows and emerges as an adult wasp. How about that for
harrowing? And the mud daubers do a similar thing when they take their little mud cones that they put on your house, the wasps, and they fill it with little spiders for their babies. They apparently put a lot of spiders in that little cone with their eggs.
I've seen that before. I thought the spiders were growing inside it. It's actually the mud dauber bringing the spiders to the nest?
Mm-hmm. For the babies.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, unless you're a spider.
Yeah, unless you're a spider. All right, well, we're gonna finish this segment with Marcus. We're gonna come back for another one, but thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll get Elizabeth back, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.